Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to episode 153 of Dads from the Crypt. Tonight, I'm joined by Jody.
Hello.
Hello. Mondo is in timeout. We sent them to Arkansas for the time being.
That is timeout. Speaking of somebody
timeout.
who lives right next to Arkansas, yeah, that's a punishment. Sorry.
But tonight, we have a special masked guest. His name is Daniel Grimm, and he's the CEO and founder of Grimmcore Comics. Welcome.
Hello, yo. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Always a pleasure. We had one of your artists come on to talk about one of your earlier comics that got was it Kickstarter funded? Return of I can never say right, Comatose.
Camisards. Yeah, you know what? That's a discussion at the office. We've had that conversation multiple times. How do we say this? And we all kind of landed on Camisards, given it the accent in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Raphael. Actually, funnily enough, you guys were the first podcast that reviewed one of our comics. So it's pretty cool that we're coming back with our second issue, our second entry into the Grimmcore canon. And we're coming on Dads
Nice.
from the Crypt again. So thank you again, man. That was great. Yeah, that was Raphael. He just went to his first Comic-Con as a creator the other day at
cool. That's
Texas
awesome.
Latino Comic-Con. So it's been a great first year for us.
Great. When does the next issue of that come out?
It's gonna come out this October, actually. It's coming to Kickstarter again. We're gonna release the second issue.
Nice.
Excellent. And then, actually, the reason you're here really is to talk about a new project that you just got funded, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, Screams from the Past is a collection of pre-code horror comics that we gathered from the public domain, from the forgotten realms of the public domain, and we remastered them and put them in this new collection. And we're publishing it on Kickstarter, and it funded I want to say a week ago. I don't know. I lose track of time when I'm doing Kickstarters. I lose track of time all the time anyway, regardless of what I'm doing. But yeah, we funded. I think that by the time this podcast comes out, the campaign will probably be over. But the comic will be available on our website, grimmcorestudios.com. It's going to be available on Kindle. It's going to be available on Barnes & Noble, Global Comics. So you guys can go and check it out there. If you like things like Tales from the Crypt, this is all the comics that were being published at the same time as Tales from the Crypt and all the awesome EC Comics stuff. So if you like that classic horror art, if you like that horror vibe, it's definitely the book for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of EC comic artists from that time that were doing other outside of EC comics. So it's a lot of the same talents. And you sent us the preview one, and it looks fantastic. I was really enjoying it.
Yeah, I've read some pre-code horror outside of the EC realm before, and I love it because we always talk about EC and what they were doing, but there was a lot of folks out there doing this kind of stuff, and they were just as gruesome as some of the EC stuff. So I love it.
Yeah, there's funny. One of my favorites is there's this comic about mutant crabs, and they just come out, and the first page is literally a giant crab eating someone's face off. It's from I think Chamber of Chills. And I'm there was some great stuff outside of EC Comics, and it's all public domain. And I just, got into doing all that research out there into what's in the public domain, what's out there. And I just found so many great comics that we've been publishing it on our newsletter for the last year. And people were really liking it. So I was like, we might as well remaster this and make it into a collection and release it as a book. And seemed like it was a good idea. So
that's cool. All right. And so where can people get their hands on that or find or follow it for more news?
So we're live on Kickstarter right now. As of recording this, it'll probably be over by the time the episode comes out. but yeah, if you guys want to stay in touch with everything we're doing, you can follow Grimmcore Studios on social media. You can go to our website, grimcorestudios.com. We got a free newsletter, a Substack, where we publish updates, previews of comics. We publish free horror comics from the public domain. We do interviews with horror creators. We got to interview Chrissy Fox, actually. We interviewed her on our newsletter, which is pretty topical because the Terrifier 3 trailer just came out today, and I think she's in it. So that's pretty fun. So we get to interview a lot of really cool people. And just if you want to stay in touch with us, honestly, that's, I think, the most valuable way of doing so, because it's free. So definitely recommend signing up to that newsletter.
Excellent. All right. And then speaking of comics, the first edition of Easy Comics in 70 years came out today. Or yesterday, actually. Sorry. So that's exciting. And then they had a launch party at a venue nearby. So I went to that. This great place called Revenge Of, where they have pinball and they sell comics and cool apparel and all kinds of stuff. It's got a little bit of everything. And I got to hang out with Hunter Goranson, the publisher of Oni Press, and then my friend Bill Dickow, who did like the William Gaines musical, was there. And then on top of that, the grandson of William Gaines was there too.
that's
So
cool.
it's like,
wow,
that really made the night. I
That's
chatted
really
with him for a while. So it was a freaking cool time. We released our review, me and Outcast, the review of the first Epitaphs from the Abyss issue, and that's doing really well, especially on YouTube, also on all of our podcast platforms. And just today, I got a preview copy of Cruel Universe, so we'll be doing another review of that to release probably the day before the comic itself comes out. So really exciting times with all that. And also, I just want to give a shout out to Disperse clothing company. They did this the event. There's some of these really cool John Carpenter t-shirts I got my hands on, and they had a bunch for like Demolition Man and Pieces. Really cool little clothing company. They have a Instagram page you can check out. It's Disperse Home Media. We'll give a shout out to them as well. But tonight, it's Jody's turn for a staff pick. Definitely a random one, but it's definitely memorable. So we're gonna be getting into it. We are talking Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, which really rolls off the tongue. I do appreciate that.
It's such a pleasant name to say.
Mm-hmm. All right, this came out October 16th, 1987. Jody, give us your plot synopsis.
All right. I didn't realize it came out October 16th. That's 5 days after I turned 6 years old. That's when this movie came out. So, yeah, this is my most watched movie on Letterboxd. I'll just go ahead and say that. Like,
wow.
I love this movie.
Wait, so how many? If you have the statistics, what are you up to?
I mean, it's like 8 times, but nothing else is even. Like the closest is 6. I think Tucker and Dale versus Evil is 6 times. Nice. Listen, I like fun. I like to enjoy myself. Yeah. So it's fun movies.
That tells you everything to know what I'm going to say about this movie.
Okay. All right. All right, let's go. All right. So 1957, at a high school prom, a student named Billy discovers that his date, Mary Lou Mahoney, is making out with another boy, and he gets revenge on her by going up into the rafters and dropping a stink bomb down on her, smoke bomb. Bad idea, because apparently in 1957, dresses were extremely flammable, because as soon as a spark hit it, she burst into flames and dies in front of her entire class of students.
But also, you're forgetting the wonderful.
That's right. There's a little like stinger at the beginning. Yeah, of a beginning thing.
That scene. Oof.
Yeah, where Mary Lou comes in to confessional at a Catholic church, and she says, Father, here's all the things I've done. I've smoked, I've drank, I've been with all kinds of boys, and I loved every minute of it. And she wrote for a good time, Call Mary Lou, on the inside of the confessional. Just fantastic. This is good stuff. All right, so after
Hot
she
girl summer.
that's right. Mary Lou. Mary Lou is an inspiration to all people, I think. So anyway, 30 years after she dies on the prom stage, there's a student named Vicky Carpenter, which, by the way, if you listen to these names, there's a Carpenter, there's like a Henenlotter character, like it's all horror. It's one of those 80s things. But Vicky Carpenter is trying to find a dress to go to prom because her mom is like ultra religious and says, you already have a dress. You don't need a new dress. There's already one at home. So why buy a prom dress? But she finds this old trunk that has a cape and a crown and dress in there. And that was supposed to be what Mary Lou was crowned with, but before she, burst into flames. So she takes all the accessories and leaves, and in the process releases Mary Lou's spirit. It's apparently just been hiding out in that trunk waiting to be crowned for 30 years. That night, her friend Jess is there. Like, she's like the costumey type. I love this like 80s girl look she has going because it's that like punk 80s, weird 80s, new wave stuff.
New wave, yeah, very new wave.
Yeah. And so she's trying to like take the crown apart to do something with it. And when she tries to pop a jewel out of it, she is killed by Mary Lou's ghost, which I will say, missed opportunity because that scene sets up so many ways for her to die and ends up with her just like getting thrown out of or getting strangled. She gets hung. But there's one of those
thinking about that
paper
as
cutters.
it was going on.
Things?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, like my mom was a teacher, and so she'd laminate stuff, and they had one of those paper cutters. Those things are friggin' terrifying.
I know.
It's like a 3-foot long blade that just chops down.
It's like a tiny little bar that's meant to protect everything.
Yeah, man. And I guess they had to keep it kind of secrety though, because if she chopped her head off, no one would go, "Oh, I think she committed suicide." I think that probably be a little bit much.
Or they're
like, really determined
for this.
Right. If you can cut your head off with one of those, I mean, nothing's going to stop you. No one's going to convince you otherwise. You are very committed to your decisions.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Vicky starts having all these kind of nightmares and hallucinations, and I don't have like exactly where they all happen, but it's her house. She has like this little girl's room that she lives in. And it's got a rocking horse.
Oh, a fucking rocking horse.
This rocking horse, man. It doesn't start immediately. It's later on in the movie. But by the end of the movie, this rocking horse has like human eyes. They're like bloodshot human eyes. And this tongue that like licks around on its face.
The tongue is what did it for me.
It's so weird.
It was like, that horse is freaky.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you got going on there, because there's a scene where she's sitting over the horse and she's just like, her hand is in the mouth of the horse, just like getting licked. I'm like, what are you on right? Like, what kind of demon time you're on right now? It was amazing.
Like, draped across the horse, petting it while it licks its lip. It's weird stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's having all these hallucinations, and she lets the local priest know what's going on. Now, the local priest was the guy who Mary Lou was cheating with at the prom. And so there's a connection there. Also, the school, is he the principal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the principal was her date at the prom. So they're both still around, and they immediately see that weird stuff's going on. His Bible like burst into flames after he tries to bless Mary Lou's grave. And so he goes to Billy, the principal, and tries to warn him that Mary Lou is back from the grave, but he says he's crazy. And Vicky ends up in detention after a volleyball game results in some slapping and hallucinations and all this. And there, Vicky gets possessed by Mary Lou after she gets pulled into this blackboard that turns into like a swirling pool of water on the wall. Very cool effect. And very Nightmare on Elm Street. Like this movie definitely was made after Nightmare on Elm Street. There's no question about that, because they touch on that kind of thing a lot.
Yeah.
So then she goes and sees the priest again and murders him. after she reveals that she's Mary Lou back from the dead. The next day, Vicky's friends notice she's a little different. She's suddenly dressing in like a poodle skirt. She's got her hair up. She's listening to 50s music, using 50s slang. One of her friends, Monica, confronts her about it in the shower. And Wikipedia just says, and she's killed afterwards. There's so much more that happens in this scene.
Yeah.
Mary Lou, or Vicky, I guess. She's Mary Lou inside, but Vicky on the outside. And we see all of her outside because it's like a long-ass nude scene where she tries to seduce her friend, and then her friend gets freaked out and realizes something's going on and runs away and hides in a locker. And then Vicky slowly walks through each part of the locker room until she like says a wop bob balloon bop and snaps her fingers, and the lockers smash together and smash her friend on the inside.
Yeah, that's my favorite kill in this movie. I love
it's
that
great
kill.
It's a crazy scene too, because I mean, even movie, like it's a bold move to be, you know, naked that long on screen, and you know, to be intimidating as the bad guy there too, I think.
I feel like that was the pivotal moment in the movie.
Oh yeah,
oh, sorry.
That's when she's like definitely crossed the line.
Yeah.
So then prom happens again. And there's this girl named Kelly, who's kind of been an antagonist throughout, like a bully. And she wants to be prom queen. And a kid named Josh, who up until this scene, I'm like, yeah, he's kind of this cool, nerdy guy. And then he says, yeah, I'll make you the prom queen if you give me a BJ here in the like room with the magic computer, the prom computer. Like, I don't know why they're in, like, it was all paper ballots in 1999. Like, nobody's had like the prom computer. But the computer does make a little bit of sense, because when he types in that Kelly is the winner, he gets electrocuted with that cool like 80s like blue lightning coming out of the screen. Mm-hmm. So Vicky gets announced as prom queen, and she goes up and waits for her crown. But before she can get it, Billy, the school principal, is up in a balcony firing off shots from a gun, and he shoots her multiple times. And when she falls down, the fully resurrected Mary Lou climbs out of Vicky's body in like a rotted zombie version of herself. She uses her whatever ghost powers to wreak havoc everywhere, killing multiple students. And Billy tries to shoot Mary Lou, but he fails. He falls and hurts himself. And so Mary Lou goes after the principal's son. And he's been kind of Vicky's boyfriend throughout this whole thing. And so she tries to like lure him into the trunk that held Mary Lou's spirit. But before she can, Billy shows up and he says, Mary Lou, I've got your crown. I want to crown you prom queen. And he gives it to her, and it seems to wrap everything up. Vicky's not possessed, and or dead, or full of holes where Mary Lou climbed out of her. She climbs out of the trunk, and she's all right now. And she gets back with her boyfriend, and Billy, who had just been firing a gun at a school, apparently no big deal. Nobody's concerned about it, because he just gets in his car with the kids and gets ready to drive home. But he turns on the song that has been playing throughout, the 1950s song, and we realize that Mary Lou's final plan was to possess the body of this 40-something-year-old man. I guess that's what she wants now. I don't know why she did it, but she wins. She's a ghost, and she possesses him in the end. The end. All right. There's so much that happens in this movie that I didn't even talk about. It's just such a nuts movie.
Yeah. All right, Daniel, you're our guest. So you can start us off. What did you think of this movie?
I honestly loved it. I had no idea what I was in when you guys were like, hey, we're reviewing Prom Night 2, Hello, Mary Lou. And I was like, what the hell is that? I had no idea what it was. And then I went into it blind. And it was so good. At first, it started off a little like, I had my misgivings in the beginning because that first kill, I felt that it was a little underwhelming. Like I was expecting the full decapitation, the full thing, and then she's thrown out the window. But by the time that we get to the locker kill scene, everything just starts taking off real quick. It was funny because while that was happening, where they're nude in the bathroom and all of that, I was like, okay, so you didn't have the budget for the decapitation, but you do have the you will get some nudity there because you gotta sell this movie, bro. It was great, honestly. That moment where they're at the prom and the zombie comes out of Vicky's body. Dude, that was beautiful special effects right there. That it looked like I wonder if it was the same practical effects guy from Return of the Living Dead, because it reminded me a lot of the vat of acid zombie there. Like it looked very similar. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
she definitely has the way she moves is so like interesting because she doesn't, come out moving like a human. It's all like hitchy and arms kind of in weird places.
yeah.
It's cool looking.
Yeah, it's just a really good slasher horror movie, and I mean, this is definitely like Nightmare on Elm Street inspired for sure. I mean, everything, the beats, the ending, uh, the the dream nightmare scenes all throughout the movie, definitely Nightmare on Elm Street inspired. Uh, and that's my favorite horror series, so this is right up my alley. Yeah, I think it was great.
All right. I'm gonna hop in. Brace yourselves for a second.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
I have a love-hate relationship with this movie. There's a lot here that I want to love, or I do love. Like I love all the effects are really fun. It's just there's a lot of zaniness. But there's like there's something about this movie that kind of I just don't jive with, and I think there's something in the editing that like scenes either go on too long or something like that. There's something tedious about watching this movie for me in between the scenes. And I haven't been able, I don't know. It's a movie that I just haven't been able to connect with. I appreciate it. And I'm not poo-pooing anyone that likes this movie. But as a overall watching experience, there's something tedious about it where I feel like it needs to be snappier. Visually, it's first of all, it's a 3:4 ratio. So it.
Okay, one quick thing. This movie does not have an HD release of any kind. This movie has never been on Blu-ray or anything like that, so that's part of what you're getting here for like the ratio thing. It's the most modern version of this movie we have is a DVD, and I have no idea why. It's very popular. Like people like this movie now.
But even DVD, they would do they would make it 16:9 or some other aspect
not for
ratio.
this one yet. I think it was just a pretty cheap DVD. Like I don't even think it was like a good release or anything. But either way. There is no modern version available.
I would love to see a cleaned up version because to me the effects, the way it's filmed and the way it's being presented feels like those late 80s, early 90s Freddy's Nightmares TV series, which like look really on the cheap. And that's just kind of how it presents. Again, I'm sure because again, part of it was we watched The Blob, which had a 4K remaster. Which is made like less than a year late, came out less than a year later. And that looks fantastic. So I don't want to knock the movie, but it just kind of affected my viewing experience, my vibe I got. There's so much what the fuck in this movie, like in the good way, but also in a way that like makes you think for a second. Like the principal character, so he literally caused the girl to catch on fire and die, and then he sticks around to become the principal of the school. Like. Everyone's okay with that. There's no trauma or anything.
It's because he's Michael Ironsides.
That's why he gets to keep going. No one says no to Michael Ironside.
Right.
Then okay, the first girl that gets killed, the one that with the
new wavy girl
or whatever, was she supposed to be pregnant, or did I miss something?
Yeah, I got there. There's definitely a scene earlier where she talks to Vicky, and I think she confesses that she just found out. So yeah.
Yeah,
that makes the murder a little extra nasty, I guess, because she just newly found out she was pregnant.
Yeah,
gets murdered.
But they never actually say it. I think I rewound it to see if they actually confirms it, or she just like insinuates. And I'm kind of like, I don't mind the pregnant woman being murdered, but like at least go with it. The locker crush is a really, really cool kill. I'll definitely get up. And there's lots of cool effects, like the one where she's being pulled into the chalkboard, but the chalkboard becomes like a pool and it's liquid and it's like, an impossible angle. That's some really cool work. There's, like I said, there's a lot of cool effects and cool scenes. But I think there's something to me in the way that they're editing it that just isn't working for me. It's like it feels very subliminal in a way. And there's so many Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff parts. The ending is the exact same where they're in the car, they think it's over, and then someone says something like, "Oh no, we're still in it." We have a burnt villain, which again I also wanted her to show up more often. She's only in that final scene in the corporeal burnt form.
I mean, okay,
I know.
I'll save it.
Yeah. And then like the horse with the tongue also kind of feels like when Nancy picks up the phone and it turns into a tongue. But then we're stretching that gag out to like multiple times for like throughout this movie. Again, it's zaniness. It'd be fun if it was just done with a little more craft, I feel. But the movie is what it is. And then it's also tapping into that 80s nostalgia for the 50s. So I read the whole book about like why the 80s are so obsessed with the 50s. And a lot of it goes into about how, there's all this social turmoil and war happening in the mid 60s into the 70s that people are like looking back to the simpler times of the 50s, or at least what the rose-colored glasses told them was the simpler time of the 50s. And this is again kind of trying to tap into that, kind of like Back to the Future, those kind of things. So it's kind of going in on that. It's just kind of a big ball of they're throwing stuff at the screen. It's kind of what it feels like. I've tried watching it a couple times and it just, every time I get kind of bored for most of it. I know you're looking at me weird.
I'm holding back so much right now. It's like
it's just like the in-between stuff. Low, right? And I know that they reshot a lot and maybe they didn't have time to edit it properly. It just doesn't quite work for me. But again, I would never say no one else can enjoy this. I'd say there's some good craft. Actually, I liked a lot of the acting in this. It's pretty fun. I like actors that kind of go big or, have lots of personality, and they do have lots of personality in this. So I'll definitely hang the hat on that. So that's my 2 cents. Jody, take it away.
All right. So you're wrong about everything. Just to start from there. No, this is a movie that to me, people always talk about, I want to go back and do more 80s movies. Like, I wish movies were like they were in the 80s and all this. This is what they're talking about. Like, this is a cheap yes, okay, technically it is a sequel, but only in the barest sense. Like, this movie was made before they decided to tack Prom Night 2 onto it. Like, it had a different name and everything. So it's not really a sequel. I think the high school is the same name. Like that's the only connection.
I think that was coincidental.
Yeah. So anyway, when people are talking about, I want those like creative, like people were like trying things and doing weird stuff. You're talking about the budget, like, or you were talking about the special effects not holding up to the Blob. This movie was made for 2.5 million Canadian dollars, and the Blob was made for 10 million US dollars. That's a big difference.
And, okay. And for the record, I love Sleepaway Camp. It's my all-time favorite movie. So to each his own.
Well, this is just, I love this movie because like pretty much anything is on the table at any point in this movie. I say Mary Lou doesn't make a lot of appearances as herself, and I agree. That character played by that actress, fantastic. I love Mary Lou in the beginning, and then when she comes back in the end. But I think Vicky's possessed version of herself channeling Mary Lou is also really good too. I think that actress does a great job. She's an actress who I like grew up watching on Anne of Green Gables. So to watch this is super weird. And I love that. I love that about it because, it's it pushes things in some weird way. I mean, there's some scenes in here that I don't think you could even do today. Like at one point, Vicky, while possessed by Mary Lou, makes out with her dad, Vicky's dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Say there's boring
Yeah.
things happening between.
That-
This is the first time we've mentioned making out with dad. And then mom
And
gets
then she kills mom.
shot through the. Yeah.
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 And there is so much happening in this movie. I want to say I can see where you're coming from with editing, but no, I love this movie. I have fun with it all the way through, like from the beginning scene to the end scene. So it's got that creativity. It's got some great special effects. I feel like the performances are really good. And it's just got that feel of we can do anything in this movie. Like there are no holds barred. There is nothing we won't do, like except for cut off that girl's head with the cool thing. Other than that, like we're gonna go some weird places with it. I'd love that. It mixes some religious stuff in there.
Mhm.
It has that whole like they're paying for the sins of their past aspect of the whole thing. But then it's also just a good slasher on top of all that. Like kids are going in creative ways throughout this entire movie. And yeah, it puts a big smile on my face when I put it on. I've got a copy of it right there on my wall where my finger's pointing if you're looking at the YouTube video.
It is a fantastic
Amazing.
VHS cover.
Yeah, the moment I watched it on the last drive-in, like that night, I had already found a VHS copy and ordered it to have it sent to my house. It's just, yeah, it's great. I have a lot of fun with it.
You know what's
the
interesting?
same way that people in the 80s had nostalgia for the 50s, I feel like this is what people are having nostalgia for when it comes to horror in the 80s.
Right. This is all Stranger Things effect.
Yeah.
Also, what's interesting is in another movie I think I get mixed up with this one a lot is Slumber Party Massacre 2.
Which is another one I love.
Yeah, that one I think is much better in my opinion. In the same year, but they're very similar in ways. But I don't know
that one has a singing killer with a drill guitar.
With a drill on it.
It's the same kind of wacky. It's the same kind of like anything can happen dream kind of stuff. Yeah, no, I love that one too. But I think in the end,
about that one
I think rewatch more.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of on the flip side of the coin, right? I'd watch that one more.
I mean, I've definitely watched that one a bunch of times too. So
yeah. All right. What else we got? Okay, so this is directed by Bruce Pittman. He did a lot of TV, especially the Twilight Zone, the 80s version, and the Friday 13th, the series. Michael Ironside. I need to talk about him.
Michael Ironside.
It's my fucking Michael Ironside. Vicky, actually, she was in Shape of Water as one of the secretaries.
Yeah. I had to look up a picture when I saw that so I could see what she looked like in whatever year Shape of Water came out.
Yeah. Oh, that's Wendy Lyon.
Yeah, she also did like voice work for Sailor Moon, out of all things, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. Mary Lou is played by Lisa Schrage. I really would have liked to see her do more, but she didn't do a ton. She was in this movie called Food of the Gods 2, which is apparently about rodents that get mutated to giant sizes and wreak havoc.
I have not heard of part 2, but I have watched the original Food of the Gods at one point.
I'm kind of curious. That sounds... The box work is pretty cool. The VHS box. And then Lewis is I think that's Vicky's boyfriend, right?
Lewis.
Okay, yeah, I kind of lost with the names. Well, he's played by Craig Nordham, and he was in the Dawn of the Dead remake. He was in Saw 4. He's been in a ton of TV and just little bit parts. So he's really killing it there.
No, you were talking about wishing Lisa Schrage had done some more stuff, or Schrage. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of consonants in a row, but I really like her performance in this. There's just something captivating about her when she's on screen. Like anytime you see her, it's like you know how they say some actresses or actors just kind of have that spark that, you know,
Mhm.
she definitely does. I wish she had been in more stuff.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Okay, so let's move on to our episode rating and final thoughts. Daniel, we do 0 to 5, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. You can do half points. Give us your final thoughts and your rating.
I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Mainly because, and this is purely subjective, but I was expecting a
Yeah, of
little bit
course.
more gore. Uh, they had some really good kills, but I was like, the lack of decapitation really didn't do it for me. I want the decapitation cut. Uh, the Vicky performance though, stellar. I loved it. I think that was honestly the highlight of the movie. She was a really good
Mhm,
actress. It's actually like the main thing that jumped out at
mhm.
me. Great special effects, but it is definitely a movie that is a little bit derivative of Nightmare on Elm Street, and if you watch Nightmare on Elm Street, it really shows. So that's why I'm not giving it like a full
Yeah.
4. But it's definitely a 3.5 for me.
All right, Jody.
Okay, so I just looked back at my letterbox rankings or my ratings for this movie, and the first time I watched this was in 2018. And at that point, I gave it the exact same rating you just did. I gave it 3.5. But on subsequent watches, if you go through my letterbox and look at every time I watched it, it just goes up a little bit more every time because it's it's one of those that when I turn it on, I know I'm getting ready to sit down and just have a fun time, watch a fun movie with stuff I don't see in other movies. And so for me, it's a 4.5. Like it's not a perfect movie by any means. It's definitely low budget, and you know there's some of the seams that show, but it's too fun to not be something I just absolutely love.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you really nailed it there, Daniel, saying it's very derivative of Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that's part of why it just feels very been there, done that in ways. Um, and again, there's something in the editing that just like bugs me. But they're trying. I can honestly see that they're trying really hard. The actors are acting their asses off. The effects people are really putting it all. Um, I'm just going straight down the middle and going 2.5. It's definitely like not unwatchable by any means. To me, it has a lot of flaws.
Okay,
That
so Jason, this is my official announcement that I'm quitting the podcast.
well,
Don't have
we
any
can.
reason to be here anymore.
Mono's
Oh
on
no, I
timeout.
picked a
You're quitting
bad
the
episode to be
podcast.
a guest
Maybe one
on.
man show soon. Yeah,
That's it.
we're gonna take auditions soon for new co-hosts. We'll
I'm
see
not
because
a
you're picking
dad
next
though,
week's
as far
movie
as I
too. So
know.
we'll see how that will fare. Right.
Next week's is different. Next week's is different. Don't worry.
Okay. And no, I have no problem watching someone else's favorite movie and saying I'm really happy you like that. It's just not my favorite, and I wouldn't expect everyone to love all my favorites. But you know, there we go.
I
All
mean,
right.
this one's fun. I mean, Mondo's not here to say it, but
Yeah,
I think that speaks for itself. So
exactly. I hate fun. All right. For our song of the day, since Mondo's not here, I'm going with a band I don't think we'd ever consider having on here before, but it's a Boys to Men song.
okay.
This is my prom song. The theme of my prom was so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
I
Yeah.
love that.
It
Yeah,
was 99. That's what you do. At least it
my
wasn't Green Day Good Riddance.
my 1999 prom song was "Don't Want to Miss a Thing" by Aerosmith.
There you go.
Oh,
Wait, was your
beautiful.
prom in 99? Or that was your junior
My
prom?
junior prom was 99, senior prom
Okay,
2000.
I was going to say because I know, yeah, you're definitely younger than me.
I didn't want to say
By
anything, but I
about
was
6 months.
born in '99,
Not that much.
so that's.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you're born in 99, so what was your prom song or theme?
Prom song was like, oh man, I don't even remember. I think it was like
What year?
2017, probably like something by Drake, which is not something that I'm too happy about. Especially now.
Or something.
Yeah, like Hotline Bling or something like that. I think Scorpion had just come out, so they were probably playing something like God's Plan or whatever, which is just hilarious in retrospect. Yeah.
On many levels. All right, that's your Boys to Men song of the day. Because we're a little, our schedule's a little wonky right now. We kind of, because I did the review with Al Katz, we kind of pushed some things around a little bit because we have some vacations coming up. So we're going to do a very light horror news. Jody, we want to talk about the Terrifier 3 trailer.
Yeah, because I don't want to be giving y'all outdated information every week. Since we're a few weeks ahead on recording right now, we're going to skip most of the news, but I just want to talk about this because it looks good. Like it's the second teaser trailer. The first one just had Art kind of like laughing in a Santa Claus costume while a little boy like walked up to him, or a little girl, I don't remember. But this one actually gets into a little bit more. We get to see a lot more of Santa Claus, Art the Clown, walking around with his costume on. We get to see Sienna is back. Sienna, is that her name? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
She's going to be back fighting him again. Get to see little glimpses of some of the gore, like there's a foot laying on the ground, and Art himself is always, of course, covered in blood. So it's Terrifier. Like it is exactly what you expect it to be. I read some like articles about it. Like there were scenes that they said were hard to film because they were so gross and gory, like they had trouble getting them made.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this movie comes out on my birthday this year, and that's what I want to spend my birthday doing.
Nice. Well, I mean, then there's like a killer ending where he's like on the ground in a pool of blood, and he's doing just like trying to do a snow angel in the blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the money shot right there. Then like it cuts to like afterwards, and like this is like perfect like impossible angel imprints.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful. I was talking to my son about this earlier today. I really like Terrifier 2. And I hope we get more Terrifier 2 in this movie. I really didn't like Terrifier 1. And so I'm hoping that like that it gets the best parts of part 2 and still has fun with it, but doesn't go back to just kind of I don't know, Terrifier 1 was really boring to me. Like there wasn't enough story. As long as there's still something happening tying it all together, then I'm in.
You mean, well, because
like
this is going to be like a 5-hour movie, right?
Sure, that's fine. I'm not on that 90-minute thing that everybody else is on now. Like I'm fine with long movies if they keep me entertained.
I'm sorry. I would not sit through a 3-hour movie of this in the theater. I just couldn't. I
watched Dr. Sleep in the theater. It was a good time. Oof. That was a long ass movie for the theater.
I can sit through a long theater movie, but like this movie, like I feel like I need to like take a break every once in a while.
3 hours of Terrifier is a lot. Like that's sitting through a lot of Art the Clown.
Mm-hmm. And I will say Terrifier 2 is definitely a little too long. Like they could have trimmed it back some, but I never got bored even at the same time. Like it's too long, but I wasn't bored, so I'm fine with it. Yeah, like it's not my like I wish they edited a little bit more, just because, like you were saying, Daniel, it's kind of there's so much gore and violence in these movies that 2.5 hours, 3 hours, you feel a little tired after it's over. Like it's kind of exhausting to put yourself through all that.
It depends on where you see it. Like again, if I'm sitting at home, that's fine. I can, you can pause it for a couple minutes to get up and do whatever. But in a theater, I think that would just be like oppressive.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna go see it opening night. It technically comes out October 11th. My birthday is October 10th, but movies always come out a day before they actually come out, so I'll watch it on that preview night.
Yeah, this is the first one I'm actually interested in seeing in the theater. Based on the one they announced the run length, that'll tell me if I'm going to go see it or not in the theater. I'll wait for digital. And this actually dovetails us into our discussion topic for the night: is our favorites first sequels. And Jody, we've been talking about this before. Oftentimes the first sequel might be. I think if a movie makes it past like 2 or 3 sequels, the second sequel tends to be the best. And I was thinking about this, and it makes sense insofar as they have the first one, and then they take what they learned and worked on, and they make a better version for the second one. And that gives the franchise legs. Oftentimes, there might be a second movie that comes out and it's terrible, and that's it. But if you have a long franchise, the second one tends to be a little bit better, which allows the franchise to go on. I posted to our Patreon to see what the people thought their favorite first sequels would be. Our friend Alyssa said Aliens, definitely a great one. Andrew said Friday the 13th Part 2, especially because it's the first appearance of Jason. Which again is interesting because Friday the 13th Part 1 and Part 2 are so dressed. I mean, they're very similar, but there's so much difference. Like as far as
I've said it before on this podcast.
It's scary.
Part 2 is my favorite of the series, and I love Friday the 13th front to back, but Part 2 is actually my favorite.
As far as a straight Friday the 13th movie, that's my favorite. I love the 6 just because it's so funny as the meta one.
6 is my favorite.
Yeah, I can definitely see how Part 2. Yeah, that's my favorite, but it's almost not a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, see, this is the one time I come down on the not liking fun, is because 6 isn't my favorite because it is so much fun and playful, and I'm like, no, not fun and playful, violent and bloody. Go back to Jason.
Exactly. Tommy said Terrifier 2, disappointed that Part 3 is rumored to be only an hour and 45 minutes and not 5 hour plus. I swear he wrote that before I said 5 hours. All right. Mondo couldn't be here, but he wrote in Hellraiser 2, and I'm actually really on board with this.
Very much.
I mean, Hellraiser 1 is a classic because it just really sets up this world, and Julia is such a great villain in that. It's a fantastic movie. But 2 just takes it and amps everything up and goes so much further.
I think I actually like 2 better than 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I appreciate 1 for what it did, but 2 is just so much. And then Whitney says, mine is silly, but I love the Care Bears movie too. So much.
Okay, sure.
I don't remember the second one. I remember the first one when I was a kid.
I do remember the first one, that face in the book. I think that was my first movie I ever saw in theaters.
And then she also said, going horror though, it would be Evil Dead 2, which it's a very common one. And Daniel, I think you said that in one of our other comments. People love them some Evil Dead 2. I also posted the threads. Someone said Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I really like that movie, but I think the first one's better still.
Yeah, that might be another example of me not liking fun as much because it's not my favorite either. I usually like fun. Just wait, I've got a whole list of my favorite number 2s, and they're a lot more fun.
Someone said Godfather Part 2, which okay, sure. Someone said Scream 2. I still like the original better, but I can see why a lot of people like Scream 2. I don't know if this person's trolling me or not. They said Jaws 2 is way better than people remember. Okay, it might be better, but I wouldn't say it's better than Jaws. And they said it's every bit as good as Jaws. I would not go that far.
I have heard some reevaluations lately of Jaws 2 that are like, it's not that bad. Like,
I
don't think I don't think anyone's saying it's better than original, but it's it's fine. It's a fun popcorn kind of movie.
Yeah, no, I do like Jaws 2, especially compared to 3 and 4. It's leagues better than those two, but nowhere near as good as the original. Let's see. Someone else said Terminator 2. Perfect movie. It's really, really good. I still think the original's better.
Yeah, I have a hard time deciding between those two because they're so different in what they're going for. I like them both, but for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like the difference between Alien and Aliens.
Yeah.
Yes, except
different vibes.
Well, except the plot in Terminator 1, Terminator 2 is kind of the same.
It is kind of the same.
We're kind of sending something back, killed on. Yeah. So but at least as far as Alien and Aliens, I mean, there's still people like being chased by aliens, but like it's a much different vibe and setting.
Yeah.
But those two I can't really choose. It's just like any day.
Yeah.
Let's see. Someone said Dawn of the Dead. It makes total sense. Someone else said they're a staunch supporter of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And I love Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I just don't think it's as good as the first one, but I'll definitely give that one props. Let's see. More votes for Aliens, Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th Part 2 again.
Every time you like read like responses from people when you put it out on social media, I'm always like, "There's this many people like who can actually respond to it." Still kind of blows my mind.
Here's an interesting one: Human Centipede Part 2.
I actually haven't seen any of the Human Centipedes.
Oh, really?
I can't comment. So
the first one is actually pretty. It's not as intense as people say it is. Like it's a gross concept, but it's pretty formulaic overall. The second one, though, goes a lot of places. It's been a while since I've seen that one, and I don't care to see that one again. But I'll probably give the tip of the hat to the second one over the first one, because I think there was such an uproar over the idea of the first one that he said "Oh, I'll give you some shit." Literally,
you want something nasty? I'll give you some.
I don't know what this is. Someone says Dr. Phoebes rides again. I'm not familiar with
that's
that.
a Vincent Price movie.
Okay.
The Abominable Dr. Phoebes is the first, or Phibes, or I'm not sure how to say it either. But it's the first one, and then that's the sequel. I haven't seen either of those.
Yeah. Jody, how long has it been since you saw the first prom night movie?
Man, it's not one that I have strong memories of. Like, I remember it. It's been a long time since I watched it. Like, I remember Jamie Lee Disco dancing more than I remember anything else in that movie. It's very forgettable. Like, it's a very generic kind of slasher. Yeah. But apparently it did well enough that that's why they picked up the name for Prom Night 2. It's like, it was actually a popular movie, I guess.
I think it's because it's running off of name of something that everyone, can relate to kind of movies. I was thinking about this. I think I really love Slumber Party Massacre 2. It's another first sequel. Daniel, do you have anyone to add?
I think the ones that I was thinking about already got mentioned. Like Hellraiser 2, I think definitely I have to pick it over 1, just because it expands the world. The special effects are insane. The story just goes so much deeper into hell and everything. Evil Dead 2, definitely a major pick of mine. One of my favorite movies of all time. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is actually I prefer it over the first one. And my guilty pleasure is that I just absolutely love Dream Warriors. I don't care what anyone says. Dream Warriors is awesome, bro. Yeah. That movie's amazing. That kill with the strings, the puppet nightmare, dude, that does it for me. Those are some of my picks.
All right, so I've got a whole letterbox list.
Yeah, Joe, let's see your letterbox.
Yeah, because I had noticed that I actually a lot of times end up liking the second movie in a series more than any of the other ones. It's like my favorite Friday the 13th is Part 2, and so I started thinking about all of them, and I came up with this whole list. And I did make the qualification; it has to have a 2 in the name because it's the kind of weird stuff you do on Letterboxd. So here's the ones that I put down. A lot of them have already been mentioned. Friday the 13th Part 2, Terrifier 2, Evil Dead 2, the movie we're talking about tonight, Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, Slumber Party Massacre 2. All right, so some that haven't been mentioned yet, though. Night of the Demons 2 is one of those that I saw all the time on HBO late at night. And one of the things I like about first sequels, I think, a lot of times maybe the first movie almost acts like a proof of concept, like it's low budget and they come up with everything, and then the sequel they get to play more because a lot of times they have more budget, or sometimes they're going from theatrical to direct to video, and so the stakes are a lot lower for what they can do. And so sometimes they just get to have more fun with it and expand the world, like you're talking about with Hellraiser. And so Night of the Demons 2 is one of those that I've seen a million times. Child's Play 2 actually is one of my favorites of the Child's Play series. At least of the straight ones, especially like of the original, like before it started getting wacky. Two, I think that ending scene where they're running through the toy factory and there's all those good guy dolls and the melting Chucky, and it's so good.
Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp 2 is another one I love. That's very cheesy. It's a whole different thing than Sleepaway Camp, but I do love it. Very fun. It has a high body count too.
Yeah, I like that one, but it's so different than the first one. I don't. In my brain, it like is a completely different thing.
Oh yeah, no, I don't watch them like back to back or anything like that because they're not the same movie. Hatchet 2 is really fun. Puppet Master 2 is probably my favorite of the Puppet Master series. The first one, like the puppets are in it for like 10 minutes, and it's mostly just a bunch of weird psychics. But Puppet Master 2, they actually are the stars of the movie. Same thing goes for Critters 2.
Yeah.
First Critters, they're kind of there, they're around. Critters 2, there's a giant ball of critters rolling over the Easter Bunny and leaving him down to bones, and there's a Playboy model walking around as an alien with her boobs hanging out. Like, I mean, it's wacky stuff. Mick Garris directed that one,
I was
right?
gonna say the Mick Garris joint.
Scare Package 2 was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. Back to Fright Night 2 is another good one that's I don't think people talk about enough. Like, I love the original Fright Night. Fright Night 2 is odd. Like, there's a vampire on roller skates with long, like, new wave hair, you know. Wrong Turn 2 is on here. That's a Joe Lynch joint. Big and gory and fun. Psycho 2, surprisingly good.
I was gonna say, both of those sequels, 2 and 3, are very good.
2 and 3 are both good. And then the last one on my list, because this is my guilty pleasure, because it's not good, but Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is a great time. With that actor,
60% of the
with
movie,
his eyebrows through that whole movie.
but that's the one where they spend 60% of the movie showing footage from the first one, right?
Yeah, half of the movie is the first movie recapped, and then the other half, though, is garbage day and some crazy stunts, and like it's bad, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I would love a recap episode.
Sequels are not bad.
Yeah, exactly. I used to love those when I was a kid. Those were fun. 2 more that I thought of, at least one is very personal to me, is Return of the Living Dead 2. I love that movie. It was like the first zombie movie I saw as a kid, so it's like imprinted on me. And then the really obvious one we haven't talked about is Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the first one again is so innovative and iconic, but the second one is a better movie. Like, it's more enjoyable. It's more black comedy. It's great stuff.
Well, I think another thing that the first sequel sometimes gets to do is the first one almost has to be an origin story for so many of these things. And the second one, you don't have to go through all that. Like, Frankenstein exists, done. Freddy's in the movie, done. Like, we don't have to go through any of the backstory.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, actually, is when they've already established that, and then they spend the second movie rehashing, having another character figuring out.
Right.
It's like all those Grudge and the Ring movies where it's like, okay, we got to refigure out what the spirit wants.
Like, we already know what it is. We've saw the last movie.
Yeah, the audience knows that. We don't care about watching the character.
Yeah.
One movie that doesn't come up, and I'm kind of surprised. I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised that no one said it, is Halloween 2, which has moments, but isn't as good as the first one. And there's little bits of like where Michael Myers is running around with like a little scalpel. It's so dinky.
Like, there are a couple scenes I like in Halloween 2, like where he hooks up the nurse to the thing and drains all her blood. Like, that's an intricate Michael Myers kill, but it doesn't even show much of that. I don't like the whole thing that part 2 introduces with the whole like he's his sister or brother and sister plot. Like, I didn't like any of that, so Halloween 2 kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth because of that.
Yeah. And I think like they take the theme and they make it like this like really weird like prog synthesizer version of it. That sounds really, really off-putting.
Maniac Cop 2 is another good one that I haven't thought about.
Yeah, is that the one with Bruce Campbell? Or is that the second one? Is that the first one?
He's in both of them.
He's in both of them.
I think he's in it more in the second one.
Okay. Well, I can't remember which one I watched then. All right. Well, that moves us to dad advice. Daniel, I was wondering if you had any advice you'd like to give our listeners. Not doesn't have to be as a father, but just you're working on some great creative projects. What creative advice would you give, etc.?
I think chase the fun. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. Because we are trying to, a lot of times in creative stuff, you're trying to maybe make a living of your art, or just try to get some kind of gain from it, or you focus too much on followers, or you focus too much on, numbers, right? But at the end of the day, art is the creative human expression. So just have fun. Keep in mind why you do what you do, and whatever you end up making is going to be a whole lot better than if you are focusing all the time on numbers and on, what will people think, and what's the best way to capitalize on this demographic or whatever. Just make cool stuff. Cool people will find it. That's my 2 cents.
Nice. I dig that.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because too often when I try to do something creative, I end up getting all up in my head and end up not doing anything,
Right.
And if you're having fun, and if that's kind of if your goal in the end is I'm gonna have fun doing this, I think that's probably you're gonna end up with a better thing anyway.
It's ironic that we talk about this, because in the new EC comic, Jody, have you read it yet?
I've read a few of the stories, haven't read everything.
Yeah, so the very first episode, the very first panel of the first segment is a guy looking at a blank page and it's just being like, "This is the most horrific thing I've ever looked at."
Yeah,
and he, kind of his personality is he's so full of himself. He's trying to make this monumental, generation changing artistic piece that he's just he can't get out of his own head. That's kind of the setup for that. But yeah, we've all been there. All right. Well, Daniel, thank you for coming on. Give people where they can find you one more time.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for having me. Yes, you can find us at Grimmcore Studios on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all the different socials out in the interwebs. But the best place to find us is grimcorestudios.com. Go hang out with us. Come hang out with us in our bloody little corner of the internet, so that you can stay in touch with all our horror comics, all our projects. Maybe you can get this dope T-shirt at the website. It comes in a hoodie too. But mainly, just come have fun. Just come enjoy the art that we make. We're a group of artists just wanting to make art in the genre that we love. Sharing it with people who also have that love for horror and comics and art. So yeah, that's what we are. That's where we are. Come hang out.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right, Jody, why don't you announce what we're reviewing next week for your staff pick?
All right. So this is not an 80s movie, but it has an 80s movie in it, kind of. We're going to talk about The Final Girls, which is another, this is legitimately one of my favorite movies. Hello, Mary Lou is a fun movie I like a lot, but The Final Girls is up at the top for me.
Nice. I'm excited for that one. I haven't seen that since it came out, so I really want to reevaluate. Very exciting stuff. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate it if you give us a rating and review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify. Oh, and we did get a couple iTunes reviews in the last couple of weeks. So thank you to our listeners who did that. And for those who haven't, shame on you. Also,
unless you think we're too woke, then it's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
You know what to say. All right. And also a like and subscribe on YouTube. And then you can always follow us on TikTok at Dads from the Crypt Talk. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.